At 20, you chase dreams. At 30, you chase stability. At 40, you chase status. But by the time you're 70, you stop chasing and start reflecting. Success. The word echoes through every corner of our lives. From the moment we're old enough to understand language, we're told to be someone. Get good grades, find a respectable job, earn a lot of money, buy a home, start a family, and climb that ever-rising ladder. Success becomes a race we're all running, some faster, some slower, but almost none questioning why. But here's what 70 years of life teaches you. Success, as the world defines it, is often an illusion. When you're young, it's easy to mistake applause for meaning. You work hard to earn titles and trophies, thinking that achievement will eventually fill that space inside you that aches for purpose. You climb higher and higher, collecting things, degrees, promotions, cars, houses. And for a while it feels good. You feel powerful, important, accomplished. But then something strange happens as the years pass. You begin to notice that all the trophies collect dust. The titles lose their shine. The applause fades. And worst of all, you begin to realize that the people who cheered for your success, they were either too busy chasing their own, or they didn't stick around when your achievements stopped growing. You realize that what looked like success wasn't always fulfillment, and what felt like progress was often just motion without meaning. At 70, the true definition of success changes. It's no longer about what you did, it's about how you lived. Were you kind to people even when no one was watching? Did you give more than you took? Did you lift others up when they stumbled? Did you listen more than you spoke? Success becomes less about having more, and more about needing less. You learn that time is more valuable than money, and presence is more important than productivity. You stop measuring your life in terms of what you accumulated, and start measuring it by what you shared. You stop asking, "What did I earn?" and begin to ask, "What did I leave behind in others?" You realize the irony. The things you thought were small, lunches with old friends, laughter over simple meals, the way your child looked at you when you listened without judgment, those were the real treasures. Ask any 70-year-old who has lived a full life and they'll tell you the same thing. It was never the job title or the salary that mattered. It was the moments, the quiet ones, the meaningful ones, that made life worthwhile. They'll tell you about the mornings they woke up next to the person they loved, the nights they held their grandchildren in their arms, the walks they took alone when the world was asleep and everything felt beautifully still. These are the things that matter after 7 decades, not stock portfolios or social media likes. Success, they'll tell you, is peace of mind. Peace that comes from knowing you lived with integrity, that you stayed true to your values even when it was hard, that you showed up for others and for yourself. It's not about whether people remember you as a winner. It's about whether people felt seen, loved, and safe around you. It's not about being famous. It's about being present. At 70, the illusion of success finally fades, and in its place, a deeper wisdom grows. A wisdom that whispers, "You are not what you earned. You are who you loved and how you loved them. You are not what you achieved. You are the joy and safety others felt in your presence. You are not your resume. You are your relationships." If you're younger and watching this now, let this be your wake-up call. Take a moment today and ask yourself, what are you chasing? And more importantly, why? Is your definition of success really your own? Or is it something the world sold you? Because here's the truth from someone who's lived through 70 years of noise. The ladder of success often leads to a roof with no view. And you don't want to realize that when it's too late to climb back down. You don't have to wait until you're older to start living wisely. You can start now. Redefine success. Make it about growth, not greed. Make it about connection, not competition. Make it about depth, not display. You won't see it trending. You won't see it celebrated on the evening news. But you'll feel it, in your heart, in your relationships, in your soul. And someday when you're 70, sitting under the shade of a quiet tree or beside someone you love, you'll smile. Because you'll know that you didn't fall for the illusion. You lived for what was real. And that quiet contentment, that's what truly matters. If there's one truth that stands taller than all others after 70 years of living, it's this. People matter more than anything else. Not the people you impressed, but the people you truly connected with. Not the ones who came to your parties, but the ones who stayed after the lights went out. Not those who praised your achievements, but those who held your hand through your failures. At 70, relationships are no longer just part of life. They are the very meaning of life. In your younger years, it's easy to take people for granted. You assume they'll always be there. You postpone calls, skip family dinners, and cancel meetups with old friends because you're too busy. You tell yourself you'll catch up later, that there's plenty of time. But time is sneaky. One day your parents are gone. The friend you meant to call has changed numbers. Your children are grown, busy with lives of their own. And suddenly you find yourself sitting in a quiet room, realizing that love was always the main thing, but you treated it like a side note. As you age, you learn that relationships are not just emotional luxuries, they are emotional necessities. You realize that your greatest joy doesn't come from what you bought, but who you shared it with. The vacation wasn't beautiful because of the beach, it was beautiful because of the laughter you shared under the stars. The house wasn't a home because of the furniture. It became a home because of the memories, the arguments, the hugs, and the quiet forgiveness between four walls. You start to see people differently too. You stop caring about how impressive someone is. Instead, you value how kind they are, how present they are, whether they make you feel understood and safe. You become less interested in people's opinions of you, and more invested in who genuinely shows up. Not out of convenience but out of care. And you realize something powerful: relationships don't survive by accident. They require effort, intention, and humility. You start to reflect. Did I make time for the people who mattered most? Did I forgive enough? Did I say the words that needed to be said before it was too late? Because if there's one regret most people carry after 7 decades, it's not what they said, it's what they didn't say. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I'm proud of you. I love you. These simple words often go unspoken for too long, locked behind pride or fear. But when you're 70 and you've lost people you thought you'd have forever, you understand how urgent it is to speak them while you can. You also come to see that not all relationships are meant to last, but every one of them can teach you something. Some friends leave. Some family members hurt you. Some people change and grow apart. But you learn not to hold on out of obligation. You hold on to connection, to truth, to mutual care. And when it's time, you let go without bitterness. Because bitterness is too heavy to carry when you're older. Forgiveness becomes not just a gift to others, but a gift to yourself. Peace is more valuable than being right. Connection is more meaningful than keeping score. At 70, you don't want more stuff, you want more presence. Someone to sit with you in silence. Someone to understand your story without you having to explain it. Someone who remembers the younger version of you, and still sees beauty in the older one. And most of all, you realize that love doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It's in the little things. Someone remembering your favorite song. A handwritten note. A call just to say, I miss you. Someone holding your hand when your health begins to fade. These are the real riches of life. And what's even more humbling? You begin to notice that it's often the quietest people who loved you the loudest. The ones who never made a big show of affection but were always there. Always listening. Always caring in ways words couldn't capture. So, what matters most after 70 years? Not the number of followers you had. Not how many people showed up to your events. But how many showed up when life wasn't going well? How many stayed when you had nothing left to offer? How many came not for what you could do but for who you were? These are the relationships that make a soul feel full. And if you're young now, ask yourself this. Who do I prioritize? Who do I show up for even when it's inconvenient? Who do I truly see, and who truly sees me? Because at the end of your life, it won't be about how impressive you look to the world. It will be about how deeply you loved and how deeply you allowed yourself to be loved. Love, in all its messy, imperfect forms, is the only thing that will still matter when your body is tired, your career is long over, and your days slow down. Cherish your people. Invest in connection. Let go of grudges. And speak the words your heart carries before it's too late. Because after 70 years of living you will see clearly, it was always about the people. It was always about the love. By the time you reach 70, something inside you changes, not suddenly but gradually, like the slow turning of a page. You begin to look at life through a different lens. And that lens is mortality. You no longer think of time as endless. You no longer assume that someday will always be there. Instead, you realize that life is fragile, fleeting, and fiercely precious. And that realization becomes the mirror in which you see everything more clearly. Mortality is not something we like to talk about. It feels uncomfortable. We push it away, pretend it's far off, something that happens to other people. But as the years pass, you attend more funerals than weddings. You lose people you thought would be around forever. You wake up some mornings with aches in your body and memories in your mind that feel like they happened just yesterday. And that's when it hits you. You are not here forever. And strangely, that knowledge doesn't make life more frightening. It makes it more meaningful. When you're young, you live as if life is something to conquer. But at 70, you understand that life is something to cherish. Every breath becomes a blessing. Every moment becomes a chance to be present, because you don't know how many more you'll get. You begin to look at the people around you and ask, if I were gone tomorrow, would they know how much I love them? You begin to ask yourself, if today was my last day, would I be proud of how I lived? These questions don't come from fear. They come from a place of wisdom. Mortality, after all, isn't just the end of life. It's a reminder of what makes life valuable in the first place. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Petty arguments, old grudges, status games. You let go of the desire to always be right, to always win, to always impress. Instead, you ask, did I make someone feel loved today? Because that is what will echo long after you're gone. You stop chasing immortality in things like legacy or fame. You realize that real immortality lives in the way you made others feel. The words you spoke in kindness. The encouragement you gave. The love you offered without expecting anything in return. It's not the buildings you built or the money you earned that people remember. It's the stories they tell about how you made them feel safe, seen, valued. As mortality sharpens your awareness, you also start seeing beauty in places you once overlooked. A quiet morning breeze. The laughter of children. The kindness of a stranger. The golden hue of a sunset that you now take the time to watch, not just glance at. You don't rush anymore. You savor. Because you understand that this moment is life, not some future destination. You also begin to face your regrets, but not with shame. With clarity. You admit the mistakes you made, the times you hurt others, the dreams you abandoned. But you don't dwell. You learn. And that learning becomes part of your gift to others. You become a lighthouse for the younger souls still navigating the stormy seas of their own journeys. You say, don't wait to tell people you love them. You say, take the trip. You say, be kind to yourself. Time will pass whether you're happy or not. You say, let go of what you can't control and hold tight to the things that matter. And as you say these things, you notice something magical. You begin to heal not only yourself but others too. Your acceptance of mortality becomes a source of peace, not fear. Because here's what mortality teaches most powerfully. Life was never about how long you lived. It was about how deeply you lived. Some people die at 90 and never truly lived a single day with meaning. Others pass at 40 but leave behind a legacy of love and authenticity that lasts for generations. What matters is not the length of the journey, but the depth of the experience. At 70, mortality is no longer a shadow, it's a teacher. It teaches you to stop postponing joy. It teaches you to stop waiting for perfect moments and start creating them. It teaches you to stop living for the approval of others and start living in alignment with your soul. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches you that letting go is not the same as giving up. You let go of youth but you gain perspective. You let go of control but you gain serenity. You let go of fears but you gain freedom. You come to understand that every goodbye, every ending, every loss, though painful, is also a portal into deeper presence and greater compassion. And when you see someone younger racing through life, chasing things that don't truly matter, you don't judge them. You smile gently, knowing that they too will one day face the mirror of mortality. And when they do, you hope they'll remember what you've learned. That love is more important than legacy. That presence is more powerful than perfection. That time is not money, it's life. So as you sit with your morning tea or take your evening walk, you no longer feel like time is slipping away. You feel like time is gifting you each breath, each heartbeat, each chance to love again, to forgive again, to live again, even if slowly. This is what truly matters after 70 years. Not the things you lost, but the wisdom you gained. Not the years behind you, but the meaning you carry forward. Not the fear of death, but the richness of truly living. As you grow older, something begins to shift that you might not have expected. The outside world becomes quieter and the inner world becomes louder. The cars, the chaos, the calendars, they still exist. But they begin to matter less. Because now, at 70, you no longer seek peace out in the world. You seek it within yourself. And that inner peace? It becomes everything. You see, when you're young, your energy is focused outward. You're building a life, career, family, reputation. You're pulled in 10 different directions, chasing goals, managing responsibilities, trying to make sense of who you are in the eyes of the world. But by the time you reach your later years, the roles start to fade. You're no longer the employee, the boss, the provider, or the center of anyone's expectations. And if you're not careful, this can feel like a loss. Like you no longer matter. Like life is winding down. But in truth, it's an invitation. A sacred opportunity to rediscover the one part of your life you may have ignored for decades. Your inner self. When the noise dies down, the real questions rise up. Who am I without the job title? Who am I without my youthful strength or outer achievements? What is left when all else is stripped away? And the answer, if you sit quietly long enough, is this. You are still you. Still whole. Still worthy. still deeply human and infinitely valuable. It's here, in the quiet space of your soul, that you discover the truths that can sustain you when everything else fades. You begin to nurture your inner world not with external success, but with reflection, gratitude, faith, and simplicity. You start to notice the power of being alone without being lonely. You begin to appreciate the gentle rhythm of life, not as something you control but as something you coexist with. And it's in this shift, from doing to being, that a new kind of richness enters your life. You no longer feel the pressure to prove anything. You simply are. You don't wake up chasing goals, you wake up seeking meaning. You don't fill silence with distractions, you let silence speak to you. And often in those still moments, you hear the deepest wisdom of all. That joy is not in things, it's in awareness. That peace is not found in having more, but in needing less. That healing is not always about fixing, it's about accepting. You start to forgive yourself for all the things you thought you had to be. You start to release the version of you that carried so many burdens, that worried about being perfect, that tried so hard to be enough. Because now you realize, you were always enough. Not when you earned it. Not when others approved. But from the very beginning. Your inner world becomes a sanctuary. A place where you revisit the good memories. A place where you make peace with your regrets. A place where you speak to God, to your soul, or simply to yourself, with honesty. It's also where your deepest joys come from now. Sitting in the garden with your thoughts. Hearing your favorite song and being transported back in time. Watching birds fly or leaves fall and feeling no need to rush. Reading something beautiful, not to be productive but simply to feel moved. These moments may seem small but they are immense. Because they remind you that your inner life is no longer dependent on the world outside. You are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions, timelines, or expectations. You've earned your freedom. And in that freedom you begin to understand something profound. Happiness is not something you chase, it's something you allow. It comes when you stop running, stop comparing, stop pretending. It comes when you sit with yourself and realize, I've made it through so much. I've grown through pain, laughter, love, and loss. And I'm still here. Still becoming. At 70, this inner world becomes your true wealth. It's the garden you've cultivated over a lifetime, planted with lessons, watered by tears, and blooming now in ways only you can understand. You don't need loud applause anymore. You don't need constant validation. What you need is stillness, self-compassion, and spiritual connection. Whether your belief is rooted in religion, nature, or simply human kindness, this connection to something larger than yourself becomes the foundation of your days. Because when you connect with your inner world, you also connect with a timeless truth. That life is not just about what you do, but about who you are becoming on the inside. And the beautiful part is, at 70 your becoming hasn't stopped. You're still growing, still awakening, still deepening. Some may look at age as an end, but the wise know, it is a doorway. A doorway into wisdom, peace, and the quiet beauty of self-awareness. So if you're in your later years and the world seems to be moving too fast without you, don't try to keep up. Instead, slow down. Go inward. Breathe. Listen. Because in that space you will find not just what matters most, but who you truly are. After 70 years of life, when you've lived through the noise of ambition, the chaos of responsibilities, and the endless rush of doing and achieving, what you're left craving is not more complexity. You're craving simplicity. Not a forced minimalism, not an aesthetic trend, but a deep, soul-level simplicity, a kind of life where less is not a lack but a luxury. Because at this stage you've seen how quickly time passes. You've seen how fragile health can be. And most importantly, you've seen how easily people overlook the simple joys in their pursuit of something greater. But after 7 decades, the truth stands crystal clear. The small things were always the big things. It's in the smell of freshly brewed tea in the morning, the warmth of sunlight streaming through your window, the comforting ritual of watering your plants, the smile of a grandchild running into your arms, the silence of a peaceful evening without obligation or stress. These aren't extras. These are essentials. When you're younger, you fill your life with stuff. More gadgets, more clothes, more events, more connections, more options. You think more means better. You think movement means growth. But eventually you learn this lesson. Clutter is not just in your home, it's in your mind. You realize how much energy you spent managing things that didn't actually bring peace. The clothes you never wore. The friends who were never truly there. The obligations you said yes to out of guilt. The endless notifications, the noise of social media, the pursuit of updates that never really mattered. So you begin to declutter. Not just your space but your spirit. You no longer feel the need to be everywhere. You no longer say yes when your heart says no. You're not afraid to be unavailable, to turn off the world for a while and just be. You start to embrace the beauty of doing one thing at a time. Drinking your tea slowly without checking your phone. Sitting in the garden without thinking of what's next. Talking to someone without planning your response. Cooking a simple meal with love instead of rushing through it. Simplicity, you realize, isn't about having nothing. It's about appreciating everything. You begin to notice how peaceful it feels to own fewer things, but value them more. How freeing it is to have fewer friends, but trust them deeply. How beautiful it is to no longer need to impress anyone, but still live in a way that inspires. And the strange thing is, the simpler your life becomes, the richer your days feel. You stop chasing extraordinary and start cherishing the ordinary. You find magic in the mundane, beauty in the boring, presence in the pauses. And most importantly, you begin to live with intention. You don't waste time with people who drain your energy. You don't spend money to fill emotional voids. You don't chase trends, you follow truth. You realize that simplicity isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. The freedom to wake up and feel light, not burdened. The freedom to choose how you spend your day, not just react to it. The freedom to say, this is enough. I am enough. At 70, you've seen how life often seduces people into believing that more is always better. But you've also seen how easily that leads to burnout, to emptiness, to regret. So you begin to live differently. You let go of what you can't control. You release the need to fix everything. You practice gratitude, not as a habit but as a way of seeing. Because when your life becomes simpler, your eyes open wider. You see your spouse not as someone you've grown used to, but as someone who still chooses to walk beside you every day. You see your memories not as faded images, but as sacred reminders of all that you've lived through. You see your body not as something aging, but as a vessel that has carried you through decades of storms and sunshine. And you learn to say thank you for the simple gifts that fill your life with quiet wonder. Clean water, a warm bed, a soft breeze, a kind neighbor, a good book, a deep breath. These are the things you come to treasure most. And if you're younger and listening, here's a secret most people don't learn until it's almost too late. Simplicity is not the absence of success. It's the clarity to know what success truly means. It's being rich in time, rich in health, rich in peace. It's waking up and not needing more to feel full. It's knowing your heart is light, your mind is calm, your soul is rooted. Simplicity is knowing you don't need to have it all, you just need to love what you have. And that mindset changes everything. Because now, every day feels like a blessing, not because it's perfect but because it's real. So what truly matters after 70 years of life? It's not the size of your house. It's whether you feel at home in your own heart. It's not how busy your calendar is. It's whether you have time to truly live. It's not how much you earned. It's whether you found peace. And peace is almost always waiting for you, in the simple things. After 70 years of living, through the noise and the silence, the building and the breaking, the gaining and the losing, what remains is not just your story. It's the impact your story had on others. Because in the end, what truly matters is not what you leave behind. It's what you leave within. This is your legacy. And the greatest legacy you can leave is love. Not love written in will documents or carved on gravestones. But love etched into the lives you touched. The kind of love that lives on in someone's laughter. In the way they raise their children. In the way they treat strangers. In the way they remember your words during their hardest days. When you're young, legacy sounds like something reserved for the rich or the famous. A name on a building, a chapter in a history book, a monument. But after 70 years, you know better. True legacy isn't made of stone, it's made of moments. The time you stayed up late with your child who couldn't sleep. The hug you gave someone who needed it more than they could say. The letter you wrote that helped someone feel seen. The advice you offered when someone stood at a crossroads. You begin to understand that everything you say, everything you do, carries weight. That your presence in someone's life, however brief, has the power to shape them. And so, the question that matters most becomes, what did I do with the love I was given? Did you pass it on? Did you multiply it? Did you heal someone else with it? At 70, you see the long thread of time. And you see that your words, your actions, your kindness, they echo. A simple compliment you gave someone decades ago might still live in their heart. A time you forgave someone might have given them the strength to forgive themselves. A lesson you taught your child might now be guiding your grandchild. You don't need to be famous to be unforgettable. You just need to love well. And love, in its truest form, is not always grand or poetic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's patient. Sometimes it's simply showing up. Love is washing the dishes without being asked. It's listening without fixing. It's showing grace when someone fails. It's choosing to be kind even when it's hard. And yes, love also means sacrifice. Maybe you gave up dreams so your children could chase theirs. Maybe you stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. Maybe you loved someone through sickness, memory loss, or heartbreak. At the time it felt like pain. But now at 70 you realize it was sacred. Because love that costs nothing isn't love at all. And the love you gave freely, especially when it hurt, that's the kind people never forget. Legacy is also found in the way you chose to live when no one was watching. Did you live with integrity? Did you apologize when you were wrong? Did you speak up when it mattered? Did you choose compassion over convenience? These choices become part of your silent legacy. And the beauty of love as a legacy is that it doesn't die when you do. It continues, through every life you changed, every heart you opened, every soul you lifted. Maybe you won't be remembered by millions. But you might be remembered by one person who was lost until they met you. And that one person might go on to help others. And that's how love becomes infinite. And if you're still wondering, was my life meaningful? Here's how you'll know. If someone remembers you and smiles. If someone lives better because they knew you. If someone becomes more loving because you were loving. Then your life was meaningful. Profoundly so. Love doesn't require perfection. You didn't have to get everything right. You didn't need to be strong all the time. You just needed to care. To keep trying. To keep loving even when life was difficult. And now, as you reflect at 70, you realize, love was never meant to be stored. It was meant to be given away. Because what we give away is what we carry with us forever. So ask yourself, who did I lift up? Who did I forgive? Who did I teach to love themselves by loving them first? These are the questions that echo beyond your lifetime. Because in the end, what truly matters is not the wealth you gathered, not the applause you earned, but the lives you softened. The people you nurtured. The love you passed forward. That is your true legacy. And if you're still here, still breathing, still loving, then your legacy isn't over yet. So keep giving. Keep forgiving. Keep loving fiercely and gently. Keep planting seeds of kindness, even if you won't see them bloom. Because the love you share today will ripple through generations. Long after your name is forgotten, your love will remain.